cheer on the way, soon my toil will be o'er, and I'll rest on that shore where the night has been turned into day. Up in the beautiful Paradise Valley by the side of the river of life. Up in the valley, how wonderful valley, we'll be free from all pain and all strain and all strife. There we shall live in the rose-tinted garden, neath the shade of a green tree. How I long for the Paradise Valley, where the beauty of heaven I'll see. Though your garden is rare, it is not to compare with the flowers that bloom in the garden above. In the midst of it grows, share its perfect sweet rose. 'Tis a wonderful flower we love. Up in the beautiful Paradise Valley by the side of the river of life. Up in the valley, how wonderful valley, we'll be free from all pain and all strain and all strife. There we shall live in the rose-tinted garden, neath the shade of a green tree. How I long for the Paradise Valley, where the beauty of heaven I'll see. Just a closer walk with thee, just a closer walk with thee,
just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be, dear Lord, let it be.
Let it be, dear Lord,
Through this world of toils and snares, if I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burden share? None but thee, dear Lord, none but thee.
None but thee, O Lord.
When my feeble life is o'er, time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely, to thy kingdom shore, to thy shore. Let it be, my dear Lord, let it be, oh Lord, let it be.
My God and I go in the fields together. We walk and talk as good friends should and do. We clasp our hands, our voices ring with laughter. My
All right. Judges chapter 13. We're gonna try to get Samson done tonight. So probably, I think, the most famous of all the judges is Samson. And you know, we've talked about these cycles of these judges. One book that I had used as kind of some material was called The Broken Saviors. And that's what it's what he does. He uses these judges, these warriors, as God's people are faithful, then they fall into idolatry. He rises up their enemies that they didn't drive out of the land. They cry out and turn to God. God hears them, raises up these military judges or rulers. There's peace for as long as the judge is alive, for 40 whatever years, and then after a period of time, maybe another period of time, they go back into idolatry, and they just repeat the cycle over and over again. And as much as we hate maybe to say we're like that, we are. We have the peaks, then we go in the valleys, and the dark times, and then we cry out to God, and then God restores and heals us, and then it's going to look different from judges. I mean, we're not like they were exactly in the context of everything, but it's the same cycle. And so we see that in our lives. And so we come to, of course, to the familiar story. So Samson is from the tribe of Dan. Timnah, he's down in here. We're going to read about here in just a moment. And so, again, we've kind of been, various parts of the land that we have. There's Samson down here, a little tribe of Dan. And so he is, the most well-known, I think that we could say, the 13th judge. Now, Jephthah, we talked about last week. He was, I don't know if he went to high school, if they had high school back then, but he was most likely to be in prison. Remember they have those categories? I don't know if they still do them. Most likely to succeed, most likely to blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they have those in the yearbooks, like most likely to be in prison. I went to some guys in high school that definitely, and some of them have been, actually. A couple of them have had some jail time. Jephthah, he was most likely to be in prison because he had a disadvantaged life. Remember, they don't want him. Remember that? And he goes and he runs around with a bunch of what? Scoundrels. And he's a warrior and a fighter. And yet he has a heart for God, we talked about. There's at least a heart towards God. And if God gives me the victory. And so we talked about him and how he became that unlikely and led the people. And then we talked about his foolish vow, and we don't want to go through all that again. And so, now, Samson is on the other extreme. I mean, if you will, for the two opposites. If Samson is in the high school yearbook, and I think he would be, he's in most likely to succeed and be a CEO, president. Jephthah is a disadvantaged character, right? Nobody wants him, remember? Samson is the privileged character in the book. Something interesting happens in the book with Samson. Up until this point, all the judges God uses, he kind of used what he had already, who's already alive. Samson, from birth, he was set apart. So it's before birth, right? And has this, the Spirit of God that's going to be upon him. And his parents are godly.
Sounds like his parents spoiled him.
Yeah, maybe. But nonetheless, they're godly. And so he's got every opportunity to be faithful, the calling of God on his life. And I got to tell you, he's one of the most spoiled, brat, self-centered, selfish people that we read about in the Bible. And we'll come back to, just like we did with Jephthah, how in the world is he mentioned in Hebrews 11 with the Hall of Fame of Faith? We'll come back to that with Samson. Because remember, we find some hope for us in these stories. But nonetheless, let's quickly go through some of this here. Okay. And there's going to be 3 women, by the way. There's 3 women that dominate the story with Samson. The first one, his first wife, we're familiar a little bit with her. The second one, we don't talk about her in Sunday school because she's a prostitute that he goes and gets with. And then, of course, there is, Delilah, that we all are familiar with. So let's look at here in the text here and start noticing. We gotta quickly go through this. Judges chapter 13, verse 1. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Have we seen that song, different verse? That's the cycle. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. What we know historically and through archaeology about the Philistines, they were an advanced society. They were advanced in their weapons and their agricultural might, and so they are powerful. And so a certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. Verse 3, the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, you are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines. And so you have this incredible opening about what God is doing. He's going to raise up from birth this deliverer, this privileged one. God's calling is upon him. And of course, the Nazirite vow, we read about that in Numbers and the law. Those would be dedicated to God, set apart, and they were to not corrupt themselves with wine. Now they used table wine. They diluted it 3-to-1, but they knew how to use wine to get drunk. Okay, the strong wine. And so they knew how the fermentation process worked, and so he's not going to have any alcohol. He's not going to have any, if you will, wine that would be fermented to. He's going to shave his head. He's going to be devoted to God. And so he's got the calling of God upon him. Now look at verse 6 here. Then the woman went to her husband and told him, a man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, you will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, or do not eat anything unclean. Remember that unclean business. We're going to come back to that on the story of Samson here. Because the boy will be a Nazirite of God from the womb until the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord. Look here. Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born. Now, I like this. As parents, when our children are born, at least it was the way with us, the doctor didn't hand us an instruction manual that said, now here it is. You just follow this A to Z. Like, when you get a dishwasher or an appliance, it has an instruction manual, right? How to program it, a new washer, dryer. Maggie and I bought some year or two ago, and we were still finding stuff we could do on it a year later. It was like, oh, did you know you could do this? It's all in that instruction manual. They don't have that when you have a child, right? They give to you, right? So how are we going to raise this child? Look what his parents say. We want this angel to come back and what? Tell us what to do. That's good parenting, isn't it? That's good parenting. Help us. Teach us. List it out, A to Z. Now notice the response is interesting, what the angel says. What the angel does not say, rather. God heard Manoah, and the angel came again to the woman while she was out in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, "He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day." Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, "Are you the man who talked to my wife?" "I am," he said. So Manoah asked him, "When your words are fulfilled, what is it to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?" Listen to the response. The angel of the Lord answered, "Your wife must do all that I have told her to do. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine, or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded you." Now, there's significant there. The angel doesn't say, he wants to know, Manoah wants to know, when your words are fulfilled, what's the rule for government? What do we do? How do we do this? And the angel points them back to, do what I've asked you to do. You live the example yourself. If you want this boy to be reflected in the calling that God has on his life, you do the same thing. Did you catch that? You must do everything I have commanded. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine. She must not drink any wine or other fermented drink. She must not eat anything unclean. I mean, what's that saying for us as parents, grandparents? How important is the example in parenting, in most things in life? Well, I took them to church. Shouldn't that be enough? They went to Sunday school. They heard Tony, they heard Robert preach good sermons, right? That'll do it. No. What happens when we get out and get in the car and we leave? I mean, how much time are we here during the week? Hour or two? We've got them what? Your kids and you've got them what? All the time. What do they see? That's how you impact them. I just find that interesting. The example, your example, is how you're going to raise this boy. Verse 15, Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "We would like for you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you." The angel replied, "Even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord." Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, "What is your name? So that we may honor you when your word comes true." Look at the faith. Look at the trust there. Confidence. Samson's got good parents. These are faithful parents. Not perfect parents. We'll see, as Kathy said. Maybe a little spoiled him a little bit. But what parent doesn't do that, right? He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Then Manoah took by the way, this is just free. I think this is the pre-incarnated Christ. That's my opinion. Now, you just take that and go with it or don't go with it. But I think it's the pre-incarnated Christ. But that's just me. I think there's some evidences for that, but we don't have time for that. That one's just, study that one on your own. All right. Nonetheless, Jesus appeared, I think, a few times in the Old Testament. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The way, we know this is from the Lord. And so he says, it's beyond understanding. Manoah took a young goat together with the grain offering, sacrificed it on the rock to the Lord. The Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell to their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. We are doomed to die. We have seen God. Anybody in the Bible that encounters the living God, an angel of God, they hit their knees with fear and terror. And so anytime you hear someone say, I saw an angel last night when I was brushing my teeth. It was awesome. And we talked. No, they're not telling the truth. People in the Bible, when they encounter the divine God, their response is always what? Fear, trembling. And so they realize now what they've seen. And so they, anyway, but his wife answered. Look here, look at the faith of his wife. If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, nor told us this. Samson's got good parents. These are good parents that are looking to the Lord, putting this together. Again, we have the advantage of, we know how the story all plays out, don't we? Do they know? They're just having to trust God. They have to live it. And so, anyway, the woman, verse 24, gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahanaim, Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. And so you've got this great opening. And then chapter 14. This like now, okay, I was on a great high, great note. I was encouraging you. I love chapter 13. And then Samson enters the picture and first words out of his mouth. In the narrative, watch the first words that come out of the person's mouth. That's key. That's real key in the story. Samson went down to Timnah. And there he saw a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. Yeah. Spoiled. Privileged, is what we would say. His father and mother, they're trying. Son, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives? Among our people? God forbid them specifically from doing what when they got in the land? Intermarrying. What's this privileged boy go do? First thing he can when he goes and finds him a pagan wife. I want her. Give her to me. Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines? Remember what David said to Goliath? This uncircumcised Philistine has defied God. But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. His parents did not know that this was from the Lord who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. Now, let me tell you what that does not mean. That does not mean God approves of this. But it does mean God's going to work through even what? Our choices that are not always what? Are right and good. Does that stop God's will even when people make bad decisions? And he can still work good and to do his purposes. And so he's going to do that here. And so Samson went down to Timnah, gathered with his father and mother, together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. Incidentally, I want to say this. How do you picture Samson physically? Now, I know how you picture if you've been raised in the church. Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. He's muscled. I want to put, right? He's long hair, right? Of course, because he didn't cut. That one's off. But look, I'm not so sure about that. The text doesn't. Now, he does some incredible things with his hands and with his strength. But what's the key to his strength? Is it his physical athletic prowess? Is it what? To me, like it would take away from, if he's Arnold Schwarzeneggered up, that it's really God, but everybody's going to look at him and go, so I don't know. Just an interesting question. We can't answer it, but I mean, if you were raised in the church, you saw Samson muscled up, and I just find that, I don't know if that's the case or not, but anyway, I don't want to spend any time on that. I just want to put that in your ear, and you figure it out. But anyway, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him powerfully, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. Look at this. And in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped up the honey with his hands and he ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they ate too, but he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from a carcass. Why?
Because it was unclean.
It was unclean. He knows the law. He knows what God's instructions are. His parents know the law. But we would call this, again, a spoiled, privileged brat. He does what he wants, when he wants, how he wants it. He takes what he wants. And so that's what he's doing here. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. This customary feast is from the pagans. This isn't from God, by the way. They chose 30 men to be his companions. This is going to be a drunken feast, basically. And then you get in the riddles. Let me tell you a riddle Samson said. If you can give me the answer within 7 days of the feast, I'll give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me an answer, you must give me 30 linen garments. And see, he's a gambler. He's arrogant.
And he doesn't really seem to have any friends. You know,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah, yeah.
Danites that are there for the feast.
Right. Yeah, he's a lot. Well, he went and got a Philistine wife. So it's like, yeah. So he said, tell us this riddle. They let us hear it. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days they could not give an answer. On the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Oh, these are some good friends, as Kathy was just talking about. Did you invite us here to steal our property? Then Samson's wife threw herself. Now this is going to happen a couple of times in the story. Samson with these women. This is round 1 here. Samson's wife threw himself sobbing. You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer. I haven't even explained it to my father or mother, he replied. So why should I explain? You gotta love that answer. I ain't even told my parents. Why am I going to tell you? She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. Again, we're going to see that a little bit later with Delilah. So on the 7th day, he finally told her, because she continued to press him. So she in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men in the town said to him, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would have not solved my riddle. Now there's a couple of things here. I don't think you should plow with someone else's heifer, and I don't think you should call your wife a heifer. But we've already established Samson is not the most idealistic hero of faith necessarily that we've... verse 19, then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. Oh my, we think how, why, and what is... He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. So he don't pay it out of himself. What's he do? He goes and takes it from some pagans. I mean, that's what he's doing here. And burning with anger, he returned to his father's home. And look at this. Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had it's a mess. What a mess story here. Chapter 15 here. Let's quickly look at 15. Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat, went to visit his wife. He said, I'm going to my wife's room. But her father would not let him go in. I was so sure you hated her, he said, that I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Oh my. Take her instead. Yeah, some great story. Yeah. Samson said to her, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them. So he's going to go on a terror now. So he went out and caught 300 foxes, tied them tail to tail in pairs. Then he fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, let the foxes loose in the standing grain. So he's going to burn down their crops of the Philistines. Burned up the shocks and standing grain together with the vineyards and the olive groves. I mean, so this guy, he takes no prisoners when he gets vengeance. And vengeance is a big part of Samson's story a couple of times. Even his final prayer to God is just about his vengeance. When the Philistines asked, who did this? They were told Samson, the Timonite son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. So wife number one is gone. Samson said to them, since you have acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my vengeance. Again, vengeance is real big in Samson. He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Etham. And so, I mean, this story just, yeah, that's why I said I want to just kind of stay in chapter 13 for a little bit. Anyway, it's going to continue here where Samson will get down here and he will use the jawbone here, and his terror will continue. Finding verse 15, the Spirit of the Lord. Let's come back to this point I made. God used Samson. Did God approve of what Samson is doing? No. So all of this is not an approval or endorsement of what Samson is doing. It's evil. It's sinful. It's dishonoring to God. All that Samson is doing is not good. But God is going to use. Remember what Joseph told his brothers, by the way, when they were finally reunited. That's what's going on here. Samson has no good intentions here. He's not trying to honor God. He's not trying to, it's just all about himself and his.
But it's the same as God raising up one nation.
That's right. To destroy another one. Yes.
Even though the nation he raises up is not a good one.
Yeah. So here he is. Anyway, let's get into chapter 16 here real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Samson and Delilah. I just don't have the stomach for it right now. I mean, we're almost done. I just want to, one day Samson went to Gaza where he saw, this is the second woman. And again, he went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson's here. So they surrounded the place, lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night. At dawn, we'll kill him. Samson lay there until only the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors, so they kind of barricade him in. He takes hold of the doors of the gate, the city gate, together with two posts, and he tore them loose, bar and all, lifted them to his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Again, this is where the depiction of his muscled Arnold Schwarzenegger, but what have we established? The source of his strength is what? Is God. Now, he might have been big and muscled up, I don't know, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But you see that here. Anyway, sometime later he fell in love, verse 4, with a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. And here we get one of the great love stories in all else. No, please no. Please no. The rulers of the Philistines went to her. See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so that we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. So that begins this little cat and mouse of Samson and Delilah, where she's going to try to get out the secret. And he's going to do what with her for a while? Just mess with her, toy with her. And you have these rounds of, if anyone ties my hair with these 7 fresh bows, then I'll be weak. So the rulers find out. They brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried. She tied him. The men hid in the room, and she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the bowstrings easily, and so his secret was not discovered. Then Delilah said to him, you've made me a fool. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how can you be tied? He said, well, here we go. Here it is. If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak. I mean, it's just, it's a character with a character. What is she trying to do to him, basically? Just kill him so she can get what? Get the money, the rulers. And so what a character with the character. And so Delilah took new ropes, tied them, and the men hid again. Samson, the Philistines are upon you, but he snapped the ropes, and she comes again. You've been making me a fool. Tell me how you... All right, here you go. Here's the truth now. If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with a pin, I'll be as weak as other... So here he goes again with her. So while he was sleeping, she took 7 braids of his hair, wove them in the fabric, and tightened them with the pin again. Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He woke, pulled the pin out, and no. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? Right? You ever heard that? You ever seen that in movies? This is the 3rd time you've made me a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to the death of it. And so, anyway, she's going to... so he told her everything. Verse 17, no razor has ever been used on my head because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God. You don't act like it. From my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as other men. And of course, you know how this goes. Delilah, when she saw that she had told him everything, she goes back and tells the Philistines, come back once more, he's told me. So they returned with silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Here's one of the, to me, one of the saddest verses in all of the Bible is Judges 16 and verse 20. Then she said, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. Here we go. He awoke from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. Here we go. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. You find a sadder verse in the Bible than that. What's the irony, of course, of this? He was before he was born, God what? Set him apart to be what? Special. God gave His Spirit upon this man. God gave him godly parents. I mean, what do we say about Jephthah's family? They didn't want him. Get out of here. You're illegitimate. He's got godly parents. He's got the Spirit of God. He's been set apart. But he has so treated the things of God as if they're nothing. Remember what it says about Esau with his birthright? Remember what it says in Hebrews? He sold it, but what? He despised it. He didn't respect it. It just didn't mean anything to him. It was like, you ever been out in the garage or the barn and you're looking for something and some old broken tool or part, you just get rid of it. You don't give it any thought, do you? The calling of God, the will of God, the purposes of God are on this man's life, right? And how does he respond? How does he treat it? How does he act in his life? He just goes out and does what? Whatever he wants, whatever he feels like. And when it finally came, he doesn't even know anymore that God is not even with him. How does that happen in our life? That can happen. You can be lost. I've seen it. Sitting in these pews. You ever seen that? You ever seen somebody be lost who's in church every week? Yeah. I've seen, we've heard ministers, elders, Bible school teachers, deacons, faithful members that have been every time the doors were open, and yet nobody knew what really did they take the things of God serious in their life? Really in their heart? In their life? No. And so you can not even know that, in one sense, that it's just you can get so caught up in sin. Did Esau really realize at the end, Esau realized what he had done, right? But at that point, it was what? It was too late. And it's just, you don't know what you have sometimes until it's gone. You despise it. And so anyway, and then, okay, you know the end of the story. They're going to grab him and they're going to bring him out to entertain the people apparently with this, they want him to come out and perform. I don't know what they want him to do exactly. But he's going to position himself again between these two pillars in their temple of the Dagon, of the god Dagon. And then look at his final act, of course. The people are praising their gods. Samson's going to say, put me near the pillars of the temple so that I can lean on them. Then Samson, verse 28, praise to the Lord. Here we go. Now we're going to see, Sovereign Lord, remember me. Okay, I think that's good enough. I think we're going to have to, that's good enough. Please, God, strengthen me just once more. Let, with one blow, get revenge. Let me get revenge. So it's about himself. But he does say, Lord, remember me. He does turn to God and say, give me the strength. And they'd already gouged out his eyes. Then Samson reached towards the two central pillars with the temple, which with the temple stood, bracing himself against him, his right hand on the one and left on the other. Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down the temple came on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived. And his brothers and fathers, his whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him. So here he is in the book of Hebrews. By faith. But he didn't live his life in faith. He didn't live trusting God. He didn't live out the calling of God in his life. But what he did at the end was an act of faith. The Hebrew writer says at the beginning of the chapter, faith is the confidence in things not seen. Did Samson in that moment have confidence in God? Yeah, he did. He praised to the sovereign God, Lord God, give me that one more time. And so his final act was an act of faith. He trusted and acted upon that and prayed to God. And in doing that, God used him in all of his life to bring judgment and bring down the Philistines. And so, just like Jephthah and some of these other characters, we think, why are they in there? They made a lot of mistakes. Well, here's the thing. God can use anyone, right? Who will be led by His Spirit, who will turn to Him and let themselves be used by God. What Samson had done up to this point was not good, did not honor God, but in a moment, yes, he turns to God and in faith asks God to bring about the judgment upon the Philistines. And so here's the thing. I don't think any of us are going to be like Samson probably to that degree as far as but we're still going to be imperfect. We're going to be selfish at times. We're going to be spoiled at times, a little bratty at times. We're going to be self-centered at times. We're going to do things selfishly and sinful. We're going to make bad decisions. We're going to hurt people at times in our lives. But that does not disqualify us from being what? Used by God. If we're what? Which is what Samson teaches us, in faith. And that is the lesson. That to me, that's the takeaway from these stories for us. And we've been talking about being led by the Spirit, right now. And it's all over this story. And so for God's purposes and God's glory, even though Samson did not live for that for the most part in his life, he does in a moment turn and ask God to be used one last time. And so he is in the book and the Hall of Fame of Faith. But these are not characters that we want to say, boys and girls, be like Samson. No. We don't even really want to ultimately say, be like David. No, the one that we look to, the perfect sinless example, is Jesus Christ. That's who we fix our eyes on. All these other individuals were flawed and broken, and we want to follow their lead. Yeah, Dusty, Vanna?
How is he considered a judge in leading people?
Well, these are military deliverances where he is kind of inflicting. And we don't get every story in his life, too, okay? So this covers 20 years. So we don't know everything what Samson did, but he obviously brought, he put a lot of misery on the Philistines, didn't he? And so, yeah, they're not always that kind of deliverer where they make everything right in a kind of a perfect bow. It's just God raises up someone to kind of be Israel's defender. And even though Samson is not exactly the best defender, because he's kind of defending himself most of the time, his interest. And but yeah, it's a fast. Any comments, questions? I know I blew through that real fast, but anything to add or take away to Samson? Yeah, Dolores?
Chapter 13, verse 5 says that the angel of the Lord told Manoah's wife that the son would begin to deliver Israel from the hands of
Yeah, so there was the beginning. Yeah, he's starting to, in that act, yeah, the purpose in his dying was to begin delivering them from the Philistines. You're right, absolutely right. And so he doesn't have that traditional trajectory in his life. It's kind of at the end, he kind of gets it kick-started to bring about deliverance and judgment upon the Philistines. And so, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, real quick, go ahead.
Verse 18, where you were talking about the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why do you ask my name?"
Right.
Seeing it is wonderful is what mine says. Yours said something a little different.
Okay.
But then in Isaiah 9:6, it says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given.
Yeah.
The government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father."
I said I had some evidences, Kathy, and now you're kind of getting into my case. I didn't want to make it about that, but I do think it's the pre-incarnated Christ, and Kathy just kind of helped me make my point. Matt, we'll give you the last word, then we got to, what's the last word, Matt?
All I was going to say was Samson was kind of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and he could bring down the house. There we go. All right. Well, that'll give you something to think about tonight, this stories. All right. We'll see you Sunday.
To worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether loving, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Beauty that made this heart